All right. Good afternoon. It is 4:20 and you have found your way to Elevated Intel. My name is Jodi James and I'm certainly glad to be here with you. If you've tuned in to Elevated Intel before, we're going to be changing things up a little bit. Uh, the sequence is going to give you a little bit of news. We're going to talk a little bit about Florida Cannabis Action Network, and we've been hearing from our new members that they're really liking learning a little bit about the history of our 28-year-old organization. So, history, news, art, culture. Wow, we have everything you need coming to you right here every Friday at 4:20, brought to you by Florida Cannabis Action Network. And I get to be the president. So, my name's Jodi James. In the news today, a couple stories that we're following. First of all, the federal government has begun to roll out the CBD program that President Trump alluded to when he did his executive order signing in December of 2025. In the coming months, if you are part of and I did a little bit of research on this, if you are part of a managed care plan from Medicaid or Medicare, that is one of their ACOs, that's an accountable care organization plan. Your accountable care organization is going to be able to contract to provide you with up to $500 worth of CBD products. Now, it's not going to be a CBD isolate. These are going to be CBD products that were created on a farm that was meeting legally compliant with the 2018 Farm Act. They meet all of the state, federal, and local production standards, and these things have been third-party tested. Now, there are some caveats. You must be at least 18 years of age. You may not be breastfeeding. I'd love to talk to Josephine. Where's Josephine when I need her? We've had conversations going on decades about cannabis and the value that that adds. Did want to remind people that according to the Marijuana Herald, they have two sources that have confirmed that there is going to be a commission announced this summer. The commission is going to look at descheduling of cannabis. Apparently, the commission is being set up so that they'll look at the legal ramifications, the health ramifications, the social ramifications of descheduling cannabis. This is not the next move. Well, maybe it is the next move, but it's not the final move. There's going to be years on that. Of course, in December, we were told that rescheduling to Schedule 3 was going to be happening promptly. And I saw that just today, a couple congressmen have asked Attorney General Bondi what the hell. So we'll follow up on that. Keep an eye. In the news today, the Army has changed its opinion on cannabis. So until this most recent change, the Army, in order to get into the Army, you had to be under the age of 35. And if you had any marijuana convictions, you could not apply to go into the Army unless you were 2 years past conviction and able to pass a drug test. So they have changed the rules. From here on out, you can be up to age 42 to join the Army, and they are not going to be considering one marijuana conviction for either possession of marijuana or possession of any sorts of paraphernalia. So the one will not count against you if you're thinking about joining the Army. Of course, this is a great time to join the Army. I'm being a little facetious. And then the last thing that I'm watching for you guys is the CLIMB Act. So CLIMB is the Capital Lending and Investment for Marijuana Businesses. This is a bipartisan act. Unfortunately, it's not its first time to be introduced in Congress. But this year we have a Democrat from Louisiana and a Republican from Pennsylvania. Now, I thought that this was interesting because one of the things that the CLIMB Act would do is it would remove some restrictions from the Small Business Administration from offering grants to cannabis companies. If you have a business and a small business loan, interestingly enough, you can't use the property for any sort of hemp business, cannabis business. We came across this recently where one of our locals was interested in having a building that she owned become a dispensary. And there is a clause in her small business loan. So marijuana news is happening around us all the time. And at this point, I was hoping that Hector Roos would join me and give me a little bit of information. Hector has come on to FLCAN's leadership team. It might be 3 years ago now. Hector, how long ago did you, 2020?
Involved in three, maybe 2 years ago, started the leadership team. And hi,
What
Jodi.
year did, hi, Hector. What year did you run for governor?
22.
So we have been loving you since 22.
Yeah,
Yeah, that almost
solid.
might make you an old timer around here.
Might be, but that
Thanks for
for
sticking with us.
thank you for making me part of the history of Florida Cannabis Action Network, Florida Can. Thank you for letting me
Legacy of
roll with you.
success.
That's it.
Woo! Whoa! Now I don't have to do any membership plugs because it did all of our fancy language.
Yeah, you absolutely. It's been a blast. I've seen so many things. I've learned so many things. Just been part of a very welcoming group. One of the things that people have always had talked to me about is like how happy the group really is, and how they take care of their own, and how they recognize each other's successes, and they're there for when the successes aren't as clear. But always working forward and towards this clear goal of just activating this particular type of healthcare, this particular type of weight of self care, and ultimately, for one of the reasons why I'm here is just changing the way government treats its citizens, right, in respects to bodily autonomy, medical freedom rights, and so on. So I'm just, it's great to be here, and as you brought me on here, it was really a dialogue of what's next, right, and what not to miss out. So yeah, our governor has called for a special session April 20th.
Okay.
So that's really the next thing. Of course, that's a couple weeks away. So nothing
too 420.
too pressing, right? But guess what? Yeah, exactly. It just happens to be the greatest day of the year. And it's like it's literally Christmas in spring. And of course, what else is actually going to be discussed there is going to be three things. For him, he really wanted to call this special session to adjust the maps for congressional districts in Florida, which is this national trend of states doing an in-year, interim year reshuffling of these political maps. For these political parties to try and take advantage over one another. It's happening in California and Texas, here in other states. And even one vote will count, because the votes for leadership in the U.S. House of Representatives is down to one or two or three seats. So it makes a big difference in terms of who can continue to control that leadership, that chamber of our U.S. or federal legislature. Before this, even despite whatever the voters want, this coming election cycle this time, starting in August, of course, with primaries in Florida, and then the general election in November. The second thing, of course, is the state legislature, Florida legislature, 120 House reps, minus some vacancies, 40 state senators, minus maybe one vacancy, did not do the one thing they're required to under the Florida Constitution to do, of course, they're really busy. It's very in a 60-day session, which is pass a budget. So their annual budget was not passed. A lot of bills did not make it either to the finish line. Some of the ones that we were hoping would pass, and some of the ones we were thankful did not pass. So all in all, just a very uneventful legislative session. But now we're looking at, well, what can be now passed into what will be a special session focused on the budget, focused on redistricting, and I'm sure we're going to find out, because people, one of the things that did not pass, for instance, was this wonderful budget. Every agency in the state government has to have a budget, especially to fund its operations. The one that we're interested in is the Department of Health. They did not get their budget passed. The Department of Agriculture did get theirs passed, but the Department of Health, which is, of course, everything that has to do with healthcare, ACA, which it just means Medicare or Medicaid, pardon me, funds, those things, like people really do rely on those dollars,
Yeah,
did
100%.
not get passed. So they're going to revisit. It's going to be revisited in the budget discussions this year. Basically, the people the legislators who are in charge of the budget process and their subcommittees get together. They get into an agreement over what's going to go into this budget, and then they just pass it straight to the governor's office. But the agreement can include a lot of different provisos and extra language that may seem legislative, in fact. So
Okay.
it'll be interesting to see what if anyone tries to put anything into that budget. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, because that devil's in the details, right?
Right.
And always fear, the classic expression, always fear when the legislature is in session.
Absolutely. No man's life, liberty, or property is safe. The Florida legislature is in session.
That's right.
I did think it was fascinating. We got a new senator and two new representatives elected last week. And, to follow up on the bills, I did a little bit of research this week for my president's message. For you, those of you who are members, first or second of every month, you'll get a newsletter with all of the dates and things that we talk about. Some of the things that we talk about here on Elevated Intel, but it comes right to your inbox. And over 1,900 bills introduced, nearly 2,000 actually. Less than 190 have made it all the way to the governors. So, we were very disappointed to not see 887, the reduced fees for veterans, make it all the way through the Senate. Got a call from Senator Pasadomo of the Rules Chair to tell us that it just wasn't going to happen this year. Now we're not done. A little birdie told me that you've been working really hard to see if we can't continue to put some items into the budget that will impact the Department of Health's budget, like veterans cards. So good job following up on all that. We appreciate it. Nothing's nothing till the governor signs it, but we are going to keep swinging until there's no other choice, right?
Absolutely. Well, we're here to find out what the legislature is really capable of, and both good and bad, and in our case, maybe a little good could be done.
Florida Cannabis Action Network has some interesting things coming up. Of course, it's just about April, and so 420 events are happening besides the legislature, that is. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. We have this week for C-Lab. If you are interested, there's a webinar with C-Lab for young professionals, building your brand. I wonder if I'm too old to be a young professional. On April 1st, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening April 1st in Fort Pierce, so I'll hold on that one. 4/18, if you're on the West Coast, their Suncoast Normal is doing their Best of the Bay event again. And so joint rolling contests, they have some other, you can get a belt. I guess it's, a whole thing. I have won my own joint rolling contest. So back in the day, I definitely did that. The other things that is going on 4/19 on the East Coast at the Cocoa Beach Pavilion from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. Tetra Horizon, tetrahorizon.com is doing a little hemp fest. What are you doing 420 weekend? Do you celebrate, Hector?
For me, what my expectation is entirely focused on the legislature this year, just because it's all let's set some expectations. They don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. The first day comes in, and then they start the session, and then they're going to start filing things really quick, and we don't know what's going to pass or what's not. So it's going to be, and frankly, at this point, they haven't even told us how long they're going to start, and they haven't told us when they're going to stop. So, so all they know is that they have to be there that week, but when they'll stop, nobody knows yet. A lot of surprises in store.
So I have a question also following up on the three things. You said redistricting is on the agenda. I know there were some court cases that were decided recently that can impact Florida's redistricting. Does Florida have to redistrict?
No, it's optional, but the idea here is that there's really no requirement in the law, at least as far as they understand it from perspective of Florida, that requires the state of Florida to provide for majority districts. So before we've had protected minority majority districts in the U.S. House of Representatives since '92 or so. And that was because of an application of the Voting Rights Act of 1967. And then, so it's been slowly, the Supreme Court's revisited the case and said, well, no, we shouldn't apply it this way. However, so they're just, our Florida law separately has constitutional protections for this sort of thing too. It's all going to get litigated and take 4 or 5 or 6 years to actually end up being discussed again. And by that time, we'll have another census done and we'll revisit it then.
So one of the things that we were talking about before we got live is the ability during a redistricting year to collect signatures if you're trying to run for office, collect signatures from anywhere.
That's right.
Is that going to happen this year?
Yes, since they've announced that they're going to redistrict or redraw these maps, the reapportionment law has kicked in. So now if you want to run for U.S. Congress, for the U.S. House of Representatives, the qualification you can start collecting. You can easily qualify, or more easily qualify by petition. The requirements have been reduced to a third, so about 2,600 petitions to actually qualify for Congress. That's about almost the same as for like a state house, frankly, right? So the question of qualifying for Congress is easier. It makes it even easier now that you can collect those petitions from any registered voter in Florida throughout this entire state of Florida. So someone who's running for Congress, who wants to run for Congress down in Key West, can collect petitions from people in the Panhandle, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. And I'll tell you, I've been talking to a lot of candidates that want the help and need the help. We're start doing signing parties with them. We're going to just set up a set of candidates that get one person to sign 20 petitions at once for each person as a set, and help people qualify. So we'll be doing this all the way through the deadline of May 11th to help people get on the ballot. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, and if you're interested in running for office, and this might be the best way to do it until the next apportionment year. Well, let's not wait. You can do it now, but you can make it effective.
So not everybody follows this as closely. In 2002, I decided to put my name in the hat to run for office. It was really more of a protest run than anything else. I don't know that I was particularly a serious candidate. I damn near lost my house because we were so busy running for office. And the guy that I was running against at the time, he was had a law enforcement background, so it gave me an opportunity in debates to talk a little bit about cannabis. I was really serious about my run, so serious as a 30-year-old with a single woman with 2 kids can really be, right? But he sent out I don't know, 25,000 mailers with his information on one side, my information on the other. Jodi's pro-life, and Jodi is anti-death penalty, and Jodi is the executive director of the Florida Cannabis Action Network. There is no way in the world the Florida Cannabis Action Network would have had enough money to do a 20,000 piece mailer in Brevard County to tell everybody that we existed. Right. So it ended up being fabulous. I would show up at places and he wouldn't plan on being there. He'd have his aide there, and I'd see his aide huddling on the phone. And pretty soon he'd come in jogging shorts. I was out walking door to door, and you were out smoking a cigar with your buddies. Turns out that he went to jail. He did beat me. He did go to jail. As part of it, I got to do a forum with the Fraternal Order of Police. And they're like, so that your opponent is one of us. And I'm like, yeah, but when is the pot lady ever going to get an opportunity to have 8 top cops in the same room so I get to talk about weed? So a lot of advantages. If you want to run for Congress, Hector mentioned there is a petition process. So you get these, you get a petition, it's designed, it has your name on it. If you were running for state house during an apportionment year, it's usually 500 or 600 signatures, but regularly, Hector mentioned about 2,600. You can also write a check to run for office in the state of Florida. So you can go get signatures signed or write the check. Do you know how much you'd have to spend to write the check to run for Congress
If
this
you're
year?
if you're running for under a political party, it's $10,000. If you're running
Okay.
as independent or libertarian, for that matter, the cost is reduced to 2/3 of that. So libertarians don't charge that extra fee.
So 3,500 or something.
Oh no, 65. It'd be like 6,700. Yeah.
Okay, 2/3 of
Right.
it.
Right.
So $6,700. So if you are someone who is retired and have $10,000-15,000 that you can afford to invest, this is an interesting opportunity and an excellent time. And certainly we need voters need lots of choices. So fascinating. And Hector, you're going to be keeping us apprised of how that program is going. And if
Absolutely.
you are considering running for Congress, you have until May 11th, 2026 to collect the signatures. Now, normally in a regular congressional year, all of those signatures have to be from voters in your district. So that's what's special this year is that, like you said, someone from Key West could sign your petition even though you are running for something out of Tallahassee, running for the seat formerly held by Congressman Gates. You can get petitions from everywhere. Anything else Florida Can's doing that you think we need to be letting people know about right now?
Well, if you're a member, don't forget that we're going to have our annual business meeting over at Cedar Key on May 1st.
Members, watch for your newsletter. We do have a special discount code for the Sea Tiki Festival. That's CPKEYTIKI. It is not in the South. It's actually on the west coast of Florida. What they say, the least expensive key in Florida. Jimmy Buffett's favorite. Once you visit, you'll know why. If you're on our email list, you should be getting a couple announcements about the Tiki Festival. You can go to the website and look. And you know what, Hector? I was looking today. We've had 6,000 people join our email list now in the last year. But of course, those are organic folks who just joined the list and decided that they wanted more information. And so we're going to try and provide that to you. But we've been around a long time. I'm going to ask one of our past presidents, Ethel Roland, to join us if she's ready.
Hey, Jodi. Hey, Hector.
Hi. Where'd Hector go? There's Hector.
I'm back.
I'm glad one of us is at the beach, Hector.
Hi, Ethel. Oh, we're always in the beach somewhere in Florida. We're always, not
Let
that.
the light shine in. Take it with you. You're lit, Hector. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes, I got a lot of light on me.
So one of our new members reached out, and Connie, welcome to Florida Cannabis Action Network. She wrote back to an email that I had sent a little bit about the history of Florida Cannabis Action Network. And so one of the things that we told you we would be talking about at the beginning is the cannabis culture, news, and art. And so on April 1st, Ethel is going to have a presentation in Fort Pierce. Ethel, how did you decide, before we get into your event on April 1st, when did you start considering yourself an artist?
Well, I was an adult way like 15 years ago, 16 years ago, like whenever I started Tears of the Drug War and like really trying to learn how to paint to express a story.
So, we're gonna have a video that we're gonna be releasing. It's probably the Monday or Tuesday that we'll make sure get posted here as soon as we get it up and moving. Showing some of your art. You recently had a showing, and a number of our members, Stu was able to attend, Julie Kurtz was able to attend, David McKinney from our board of directors, my lovely husband. Seems like there were other, Patty, George. We had a good
Yeah.
showing of Florida
It
Can
was,
members
it was
there.
a record turnout for the art club's reception.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Go Ethel. Yeah. Well, we're gonna say it's entirely because we love you.
Cool
But
beans.
you talked a little bit about Tears of the Drug War, and it was really probably the drug war that got you involved with Cannabis Action Network. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. In Florida Can? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were the only ones that talked about the whole plant. Normal was medical, and the hemp, whoever's were hemp only, and all I ever wanted was the whole plant for all of its uses, including euphoria.
It was funny when Hector was talking about our goals. I'm like, wow, he was so much more eloquent. My husband and I, David, we're outside of Savannah right now. And this morning we did some horseback riding. And when I said to the young woman, she asked what we did, and I told her cannabis policy. And I think she must be anti-cannabis, but she was very polite. So, she starts with, well, what does exactly that mean? And well, what are you trying to accomplish? And I kind of leaned heavily on the industrial part because really, I think you said it, the whole plant for all of its uses is probably the short answer. I wish I'd had that one, a little horseback ride, but she said, well, don't you think that cannabis is bad for people? Well, I know. As a
Cannabis
matter of fact,
prohibition is because that's how people go to jail and get in trouble with the law and criminal stuff and family stuff and yeah.
Yeah, prohibition. So Tears of the Drug War was a series that you decided to invest in, and there were more than one painting in Tears of the Drug War. This is a whole series, right?
Between Tears of the Drug War and Square Grouper Gallery, I have over 30 pieces. I
Oh,
didn't
wow, I
even
didn't.
have my sculptures there that night, so.
That's true. That's true. But we have had a number of them at the Capitol. So,
All of
I
them,
was trying to think.
all of my artwork has been to the Capitol except my recent eights.
And which one did I get? Gainesville Green?
Yes.
Mhm.
So, would you, do you remember why we did our first cannabis at the Capitol? I mean, it wasn't called,
Like,
I
you
first,
weren't there.
I was.
Were you there for the first one and then it was the second one that you went off on vacation? And Bob Clayton and I were there?
Josephine?
So,
While she's
14,
thinking about this,
13, 13.
well, Ethel, oh my. While Ethel's thinking about why we did the first one, Cannabis at the Capitol, of course, is our annual pilgrimage to the Capitol. These days we do lobby days and teach you how to interact with your lawmakers. We also do a full exhibit on one of the floors in the main rotunda of the Capitol. So a lot of citizen involvement, a lot of education, a lot of stuff. The very first one, we only talked about hemp, right? So there was hemp seeds and there was hemp building blocks.
First few.
Maybe so.
Well, that was the only way that Bob Clayton would show up.
Yeah.
And if that
Yeah.
was the first one, that was when you were on vacation.
Okay.
And the second year, I don't know, it's the one where we ran into the cowboys, the
Cattlemen's
Cattlemen's
Association.
The Cattlemen's
Association.
Association, yeah, they've been doing that
Yeah.
for years too.
So,
They
and
brought us we would not have hemp if it wasn't for the Cattlemen's Association. 100%.
he had lunch scheduled with the Department of Ag, Secretary of Agriculture, something like that.
No,
And
the
we got a
chair
line on the bill that passed.
that year, 100%. In reconciliation, it wasn't even, it never got heard. It just got added.
Just got
So if you have lunch with the right chairman of the board, this is the kind of thing that happens. As a past president of Florida Cannabis Action Network, Ethel, do you have a favorite memory?
well, pies, so many pies, and a lot of cooking.
Yeah, there was
What's the pie are you talking about? Dessert pies?
Dessert pies.
there was a lot of pies. We did a great segment. I actually saw it. It showed up on my memories recently because of course Pie Day 314, right? Is Pie Day. And Ethel and I did a segment from this amazing kitchen in March of
Something.
20? Had to have been
20
19.
was when we all went home, and it was, yes, that was the kitchen.
It was a fabulous kitchen, and we baked pies during this live and discussed how everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Because of course there really was no hemp market at that point. There was no over-the-counter intoxicating hemp market. There was barely a medical marijuana market back then. So we have been trying for a very long time to make sure that people were not going to jail. I mean, that was probably our first thing, was helping people understand the First Amendment. We did a lot of training to help people understand the Fourth Amendment because, well, if you're going to exercise the First Amendment, you have to understand the Fourth Amendment. Ethel?
And rights restoration.
Definitely did a lot of work on rights restoration, early adopters on the felon rights restoration.
Yeah.
First press conference I ever did was with the Felon Rights Restoration Coalition. Frederica Wilson, who is a iconic member of Congress from South Florida and member of the Florida House and Senate, she was known for these amazing big hats, right? She was always big hat lady. And so she's very tall. And for those of you who know me in person, I'm not. So I'm standing at a podium next to this very tall, very bold Frederica Wilson, Senator Frederica Wilson at the time. And my legs are shaking to the point that I could have powered a small village with the momentum. So, rights restoration, hugely important, particularly when at one point Florida was the most regressive state in the nation. 21 grams is a felony. Well, 22 or whatever. So, with those
Concentrates
kind
are still a felony.
100%. And that is something that I don't think people pay enough attention to. Your gummy, your vape pen, you name it, that is purchased outside the medical program, that's really, if you have an encounter with the wrong law enforcement officer, you could see grand penalties for that kind of stuff. It is absolutely a felony. And we talked a little bit before the show about kind of where we've come. It's fascinating. And Hector, you should speak up. It's okay to say. Nowadays what are we doing, Hector?
We've come so far. That's the beauty of talking about the history of Florida Can, is that it has come so far, in the sense that we don't automatically think that people are going to get in trouble these days. It's not. There's other. We've had a movement since then about civil citations. In other words, decriminalization movement. Now we're towards the legalization movement. Now we're talking about decontrol, right? I mean, these are things this has all happened thanks to the efforts of you, Jodi, Ethel, everyone over the history of the Florida Can, and that have participated in making the present what it is. And nowadays, your story talking about horse riding in Savannah, the reaction of the proprietor there is that really our biggest challenge nowadays is simply combating the stigma about the plant. It does, but we see the plant everywhere around us. If we support our national defense, we have to recognize that we have to import hemp from other countries that goes into the threads that make soldiers' uniforms, like even today. So this is how contradictory and backwards the policies are, and the stigma is huge. So I'm just very proud to be part of this organization, and that people really get relief, and it's effective. Of what, if you have an idea, you present your idea, we run with it, and we're making a lasting impact, because again, there's police training that would have to happen. There's education to the legislators there, and even the efforts that are reaching all the way to the White House are being heard. In fact, I would say that Florida, the policy around the plant is being shaped predominantly in Florida for the rest of the country. So we are ground zero. We're at the center of the eye of the hurricane of reform in this space. So couldn't be prouder to be where I'm at today.
I always said that too. It felt like we were really the front line of the war on drugs. And some of the work that we've done over the decades, Cannabis Action Network, really was groundbreaking, where you can petition. Thanks to Anthony Lorenzo, you can petition in public spaces like the mall. That is now the new town square. That was a Cannabis Action Network volunteer getting harassed at a Publix that set that precedent. Scott Bledsoe versus, I guess it was Duval County or the city of Jacksonville, again, over where do we have the right to protest and demonstrate. Cannabis Action Network versus city of Gainesville, also about whether or not you need insurance to have exercise free speech, and can they keep us from exercising free speech. And most recently, Cooper versus Garland, which is waiting on a decision at the it's sitting at the 11th Circuit Court right now, but first DCA isn't going to look at it again until the Supreme Court makes a decision. So we have had an opportunity to really shape things through our third branch. If you didn't get to see the third branch talk it out last night, it's pretty deep stuff. You have to kind of love the law, and you kind of have to love the nuances. But if you love the law and you love the nuances and you love weed and you're interested in being able to cultivate your own cannabis, we certainly lay out the facts on a way that you could present an affirmative defense. Of course, strictly for entertainment purposes, of course.
100%. I'm here. I'm proud as to also note that besides the stigma, the other challenge is really employment protections, like the right to have the right to have your healthcare determined with you and your physician. Just at this point, this has been something that's been a practical conversation for the last couple of years, but that to say that your doctor can prescribe you this medicine and that you use it responsibly, and you could be terminated from your employment, and even if you have a diagnosed disability. So the work of a member like Attorney Michael Minardi, that's who's even talking about, we released a press release on his behalf that today he's launching this lawsuit to challenge roadside testing. These roadside testing kits that are how's the police do enforcement, right? So just these things. It's a wonderful place to be. Again, this organization, to see all these things. And one thing I find fascinating is the art, like how people communicate with one another. That's not this dry legalistic conversation, though that's important. And you can check out our that story on our Facebook page here at Florida Cannabis, or Florida Can, actually, FLCAN, Florida Can on Facebook. But the art is huge. I'm from Miami. So so the term square grouper means a lot to me. So it
It
does.
wasn't lost on you. You knew what a
No,
square
no, of
grouper was.
course. Right.
All right, raise your
We grew
hand
up
if
with.
you know what a square grouper is. All right, all right. Dave, are you monitoring on Facebook?
No comments.
I want to know if somebody can tell me what a square grouper is. All right, we're gonna let the audience tell us what a
I
square
mean,
grouper is.
I have to say, it's an amazing story because there have been some famous documentaries from filmmakers from Miami that promoted this, that popularized this idea over the last 20 years, and really just shown us that the drug war is not meant to be won. It is meant it's meant to be disruptive. It's meant to for other purposes other than its intended intentions. And I couldn't this and that was all in art. That was all art explanation and storytelling. And when I see Ethel's artwork, it makes me think about the stories that she's telling through her art, and it is something amazing to watch. So something to catch in live, and also talk to the artist. Of course, the artist perspective is a wonderful thing to hear, and we've come a long way. And that's the number one takeaway you'll have, because we don't hear those kind of stories. Actually, in fact, I would say we're hearing more stories nowadays about DEA agents who are being prosecuted for participating in drug distribution rather than drug prohibition or interdiction. So it's fascinating to me what the times we live in. Just Google it.
It'd be hard not to be corrupt with the war on drugs. Ethel, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just we have come a long way because just with my artwork, my very first piece that I submitted for inclusion in a calendar was a box and a fisherman. There was no marijuana leaf, and it was banned from the calendar because of the idea that there were drugs in that box. And then I was selling apes in the same space. Just this year.
There's a comment from Stu Baskin. Says my kids asked what a square grouper was after Ethel's show. He attended. And then he says I said nothing. LOL. But imagine
you can tell him it's local fisherman jargon.
There you go.
It's true.
That's true.
Yeah. So talking about over the counter, we're talking about restaurants and bars are now serving up, right, these beverages that are with THC or CBD beverages or ratio, and mocktails are now the thing, right? The next generation is even saying no to alcohol, but more to functional beverages, and mocktails are the thing. So imagine, I mean, this is incredible.
It's very but a whole lot healthier.
Stuart adds it's surfer jargon too. Ha ha ha.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Right. So we'll see.
Right
Thanks for sticking with us, Stu. We appreciate it. Stu has got a new HR company that is satisfying all of your HR needs. One of our business members. So maybe Stu, you can put that link in the website for businesses who might be looking for someone to take on some of that HR stuff. We have been for a very long time, kind of a consumer speaking for first we spoke for the plant, kind of like the Lorax, because the plant couldn't speak for itself. And then as hemp became legal and Dr. Sanjay Gupta and everybody was talking, thank you, Canopy HR Solutions, as everybody was really looking at I totally lost my train of thought. I apologize. They tell me that cannabis is a memory loss drug, and I haven't had enough of it to blame cannabis. So
but speaking of which, I see you have a visitor.
Oh, yes, I do. That David McCann, we are traveling south. Say
Dave.
hi to Dave.
Hey. Dave is there.
There is no Dave's not here joke today.
Right.
I know. we've spoken to the plant like the Lorax and now that there are people who understand the value of the plant, we've really, I think, done a good job of speaking for consumers. These days, really, I think we're talking about responsible consumption, right? That's one of the priorities that FLCAN is looking at, is what does responsible consumption look like? And we had a conversation before we went live about whether or not the industry is really the peripheral industry, the device manufacturers, if the device manufacturers are really paying any attention to the fact that there are people with special needs that are creating these devices. We put out something recently on not storing your cannabis in a car. So you don't want your cannabis stored in a hot car. As the cannabis heats up, it's gonna change chemically. Ultimately, there's some degradation that happens, and so you're not going to have the same product when you're done. We talked about making sure that you're regularly cleaning your devices to make sure that what you are getting is good stuff. We did a segment, I've lost Ethel. We did it, and I really wanted to hang out with her some more. Okay.
She'll come back. She'll come back. It's fine.
We can always hope. We'll miss her. We miss you when you're gone, Ethel.
But if you really want to see her, what's the details regarding her upcoming art show?
Well, you know what? I don't have all of them in front of me. I know it's going to be at Fort Pierce. Starry Night show. There is a. Can you pull up the graphic on Facebook? I'll get that for you right away.
Oh, fantastic! Well, I will say that it is. It's a fantastic. There's so many different ways of self-expression, and the art is one of those that needs to be promoted and appreciated, especially with when you're trying to communicate things to people from all different walks of life, all different ages. Stu taking his kids to the last one, I mean, we're all going to learn about this stuff. We'll learn about this.
100%.
It reminds me that sometimes that even the FLCAN office the Florida Can office in Melbourne has so much memories that that's an expression of art in itself, and certainly a place of history. So which is something that I'd love to see open up and actually do that one of these days, right?
First Amendment is about expressing yourself, right? It was fun. Ethel was my favorite band artist for a while. She may still be my favorite band artist. And if you're interested, she's doing a program from 6 to 9 on April 1st. No kidding, it really is on April 1st from 6 to 9. It is at Priscilla's Oasis at 223 Orange Avenue in Fort Pierce. We went there, spent a few minutes there after the last showing. It is an alcohol-free venue, so they're doing mocktails. The owner is waiting on clarification so that she can start serving her own cannabis beverages. Of course, there's debate in the Florida House who's going to get to sell non-alcoholic cannabis beverages. So, but there's a couple other things that are going on that were really attractive to me. And I have lived with Ethel's art and love Ethel's art, have a couple reproductions on my wall. People who donate something significant to Florida Cannabis Action Network. We have a replica of one of Ethel's pieces that was important to Kathy Jordan, one of our other past presidents. So piece called Potluck that for a significant donation, we get you a signed copy of that. But there's going to be the Fort Pierce Astronomy Club. And apparently at 6 o'clock, you're going to be able to see Saturn. You're going to be able to see Jupiter at 6 p.m. Despite the fact that it's daylight, you'll be able to see Jupiter. And there is going to be a rising of a full pink moon.
Wow.
So stick around for the pink moon. Check out the Starry Night. The place is 420 friendly. So it is a place where if you use hemp, you can use hemp. If you use medicine. You can use it appropriately. So I guess we're going to have Ethel back on again to
That's
talk
right.
about Miss Cannabis Manners. I'm sorry we lost her before Cannabis Manners,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So
She gets to go to the beach early now.
that's what she was telling us. I will tell you, Miss Mary Jane Manners is Florida Cannabis Action Network's way of communicating through art some of the better ways that cannabis consumers can live and work and be good neighbors. And so the first thing that Miss Mary Jane Manners will remind you is don't snag the other guy's lighter. It's rude. So keep your own lighter, keep your lighter in your pocket. Ethel's laptop has died. We will miss her. Did I lose Hector too? And then there was one.
No,
Jeez.
I'm back. I'm
Yeah.
back. I'm back.
I'm like, really? I didn't want to end this by myself.
No, I think it's actually, I think the next step is really to remind people how they can engage, how they can roll with us at Florida Can.
Nice. I think that's the last thing on my note too. It's easy. FLCAN.org is our website. You can sign up for our mailing list under the column that says what? Ways to engage or something easy. There's 4 ways to engage. Join our mailing list. If nothing else, you'll get a reminder that Elevated Intel is getting ready to happen. Folks who want to make a one-time donation, it's always welcome. We appreciate your likes, your stars, your hearts. We appreciate you sharing and liking this program. Your input, communication, feedback, all of that is tremendously welcome. You can become a dues-paying member. Membership starts at as little as $5 a month, and we have a special program for our gold members at $500 annually. And we also have a really, really entry-level business sponsorship at $250. There's a lot that you're going to get for your $250, including some recognition, a little bit of extra help with your social media marketing. But really, you have an opportunity once a month to talk to some really knowledgeable people in the space. There's some consulting that comes with that membership, and all of us who have cannabis businesses could use someone from time to time to just take a minute with.
Yeah, that experience, the banking questions are always a popular one. I want to sell
Have an expert.
I want to sell such and such product, right? What is the permitting requirements for it, if any? And of course, my favorite one is, if you do run into law enforcement, what do I do? How do I plan, right? So that at least it's the least disruptive to your business, because unfortunately it's still part of the conversation. But it is FLCAN.org/join if you really want to go directly to us and join us on our regular calls, regular meetings. And if you are a healthcare professional, there's also a network for you here.
Absolutely. So I want to give you the list of things that are coming up one more time. Don't forget, on March 31st, there is a webinar from our partners at C-Lab for young professionals building your brand. For the first, no kidding, it is April 1st. You can join Ethel for Art by the Starry Night in Fort Pierce. On 4/18, the Best of the Bay, that's your joint rolling, blunt rolling contest, and much, much more. That's at Chillum in St. Pete, sponsored by our friends with Suncoast Normal. On 4/19, one of our business partners, Chetra Horizon, is featuring a Patient Appreciation Day, because Hemp Fest would require different permitting, just saying. So, patient appreciation on the East Coast, Cocoa Beach, there is a $5 ticket fee for that if you get your tickets now. Also coming up, May 1st through the 3rd, the Siki Tiki Festival. Look for Friends of Florida Can wearing their Florida Can lapel piece. We're also going to be sending out some emails over the next few days about ordering t-shirts from Florida Cannabis Action Network. We've got some great white t-shirts. We've got some handmade tie-dye t-shirts, and we have some past editions of Cannabis at the Capital tees. So we'd like to get that out to members. On May 3rd is going to be our annual business meeting. And all of our members are welcome to attend in person. If you can't attend in person, you will get a Zoom link. And at the end of May, speaking of physicians, the Florida Medical Cannabis Conference and Expo, hosted by our friends Jean and Dana Jones, is going to be happening. That is going to be at the Rosen Center in Orlando. You can find out about that at FMCCE.com. I think that wraps us up for today. Thanks for spending an hour with us. I'm Jodi James. This is Hector Roos. We had a special guest, Ethel Roland, past president of Florida Cannabis Action Network. Stay tuned for us next week. We'll be back at 4:20 with more elevated intel. See you next week.
Bye, everybody. Have a nice weekend.